Okay, so I did put a link in the chat to the documents, and that includes the presentation that I'll be doing today, which is this top link here that I'll start in a moment. There's also a quick formative survey, just a little bit of like getting to know you all and where you're from and what you're hoping to get out of this. So if you can open the link in the chat and click on the formative, just fill that out quick before I get started.
Oh.
If you don't have a formative account, you might need to make one.
It's a, oh, is that what that means? Because it says to be invited, you need permission.
Mine says you need permission, yeah.
Oh, all right, maybe we'll just skip that then, because I thought I had it set up correctly. Maybe I didn't. All right, we'll just skip that part then. All right, then let's see. So yeah, the slideshow link is here, and then the 3 documents that I'll be going over later are here. These should be editable in Cami if I have them shared correctly. Hopefully I do. And so yeah, that link will stay in the chat so we can access those. And if you want to click on the Google Slide link, you'll be able to click on the links that you know are in there. Otherwise, I'm going to be showing the same thing. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm here today to talk to you guys about how I used Cami this year and some other apps to try to engage students in this weird world we were in with virtual learning and hybrid instruction. I know in my district, I teach in Rhode Island, we were virtual up until mid-January, and then the kids were in a hybrid, and then we were in person with some of our students. About a third of our students came back to school in about mid-April, and that was kind of how our year went. But I definitely learned some tricks that worked with kids to engage them even when they were virtual, and some things that I plan on using even when we return to in-person learning this fall, which I'm really looking forward to. Some things that I'll kind of use that I've learned. So hopefully that'll be helpful to you guys. Here's a schedule. So I'm going to do a little quick introduction. I'm going to do a little app comparison on things that I've used and found helpful. Look at some resources that I've used and have a quick share out with other things that maybe you guys have that we could share with each other. I'm then going to show 3 student work samples to kind of get a sense of how I used Cami. We're going to skip the formative because that didn't work. And then from 9:45 to 10:15, I'm going to go over 3 lessons. The first will be on fostering group collaboration with Cami, using PhET with Cami, and that's geared towards a college prep or honors chem class. The lesson is on atoms, ions, and isotopes. The second one is focused on assessment, how I do group presentations with the kids using Cami and using something called moleview.org to build structure of molecules, again geared towards a college prep or honors level of chem class. And then the third one is geared more towards a Chem 2 class or an AP class. And that's exploring Cami for group labs. So that's looking at a virtual lab, and the topic is equilibrium. And then I'm hoping if I can get all that done by 10:15 that you guys will have time to actually work on a lesson, either take a lesson that you have and use one of the things that I go over to kind of make it more engaging or more collaborative, or create something new. So hopefully we have time for that. And then I have a quick wrap up and a little survey to finish this up. All right, so here's a picture of me at senior prom this year. I was really excited that my students got to experience an actual senior prom. And they had a gorgeous location overlooking Narragansett Bay, and it was a beautiful night. And as was discussed in the introduction, I do like a hands-on, minds-on learning environment. I like getting the kids speaking the language of chemistry. We do a lot of movement in my room. It's very little lecture. It's a lot of group activities and presentations, and the kids really engaging with science. Right, so to go over some apps that I've used these past few years, Cami is definitely something that I really kind of fell in love with in terms of allowing me to engage students, again, in that virtual environment. Some of the great things it has, if you haven't used it, in the free version, you get to edit PDFs. So you can open a PDF, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. You can highlight text, you can add text, you can add other images to it. And in the paid version, there's a bunch of different options. And my district ended up paying for Cami for us this year, but I think as just an individual teacher, it's like $99 a year. But the free version has quite a bit of functionality. The best features that I have found using Cami is that it has voice and video commenting. So I used to have the kids use Flipgrid to do videos in class, but now I don't have to use that. I just use Cami to have the kids make videos, or I use voice and video commenting either as an introduction to an assignment with like help with directions, or as feedback, which has been wonderful. And then it also has an equation tool, so we can do dimensional analysis in a Cami document, which was also, some kids loved it, some kids didn't like it. I'll kind of show you how that works. And I think going forward, some kids will hate it and some kids will like it, and it just depends on the kid. A little limitation is I found that you can't insert a link into a Cami document. However, if you have any sort of Google document, like a Google slide or a Google Sheet or a Google Doc, and you open it with Cami, it converts it into a PDF that then has the links for you. Next set of apps I was looking at, I use a lot for entrance and exit tickets. I tend to use Formative, but I know Classkick is another option. I'm just not as familiar with that one. I like this either, again, at the beginning or end of class for like those quick check-ins with kids. I like Informative, that you can show anonymous answers and you can have like a class discussion on kind of what the best answers are or where kids kind of went wrong. And it also does have an equation tool. I did notice that Informative, you can't have the kids do any group work. And I believe in Classkick, there's no actual grading of work, whereas Informative, you can actually like put grades on different assignments.
They did add grading last year.
They did. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So in Classkick, there is grading. Sorry about that. All right, Jamboard is one of the Google Suite add-ons. If you haven't used Jamboard before, it's great. If you have a stylus, or if you're, I know in my school, if you're in person, we've got Promethean board, so it's great as an online whiteboard. It also, I tend to use it as the sticky note option the best, so to have kids just share out ideas real quick for like brainstorming is how I tend to use it. The limitations are you can't add video, you can't add links, you can't add any math or any equations, and unless you have the kids put their names on the sticky notes, they remain anonymous. Pear Deck and Nearpod make any Google slide interactive. So those are great for check-ins. I found that they're really good for concepts, but again, not so great for math because it's hard to do equations on there. And then the last one here is something called Grade Transfer. So this is something that I think one of my colleagues shared out in like November of last year, and this was a time saver for sure. You do have to pay for it. So they bill you once, I think it's like $250 a month. So it comes out to, $15, $16 a year, but it allows you to transfer your grades from something like a Google Classroom into any grading program. So our district uses Aspen. So instead of having to put the grades in Google Classroom and then put the grades again in Aspen, if you do grade transfer, it just copies and pastes the grades, basically is how that works. And it definitely is a time saver if you have grades in Google Classroom that you need to get into your grading program. So that's something I definitely recommend if you haven't checked that out. Before I leave this page, are there any questions about any of that? All right, next I wanted to go over some resources. So MoleView is something that I use all the time. I tend to introduce this in my chemistry classes almost immediately, and the kids have a lot of fun playing with this, where you just get to make molecules. So if you haven't used this before, there's just a search bar. So if you want like glucose, for example, it'll build the structural formula for you, and you can zoom in and zoom out and rotate. And I tend to have kids build molecules and then copy and paste from here into whatever assignment we're working on. Chemical thinking interactives is something that just came across my radar a few months ago, I think on like the AP Chemistry Facebook page or something. So it's got a ton of resources. One of the things that really struck me as useful is that it has the ability to build photoelectron spectra. So those of us that teach AP, and if you have a Chromebook, we lost our ability to do anything flash back in December. So this will actually let you build a photoelectron spectra of elements. I know I had lost the ability to do that when we lost the ability to do flash. So I'm pretty excited that we have access to something like that again. And I haven't explored this so much, but it looks like there's some overlap with some PhET stuff. And then there's some stuff that I hadn't seen before. So it looks pretty cool. Whoops. Third one that I use is something called the Next Generation Molecular Workbench. This is out of the Concord Consortium. I actually worked with these guys about 12 years ago with some really interesting PD. And these have some great simulations and interactives. And let's see. It's got interactives for biology, chemistry, and physics. And if you click on one of these menus, there's a drop down for Were you guys able to hear me that whole time? I just had a little thing asking me to unmute.
No,
Yeah.
we just lost you.
All right, so I'm okay now.
Yes.
Technical difficulties this morning, sorry. Okay, next is Chem Matters, which I won't click on, but that's a magazine I use all the time that comes out from the American Chemical Society. Does great with real world connections to learning. And yeah, I read those all the time and connect them to lessons. It is a little time consuming to read it and then, connect it, but it is exciting to see when those new magazines come out. Let's see, compound interest. I know this was mentioned at one of the sessions yesterday, but these are really great for, again, real world connections and quick little infographics. So I definitely suggest checking this out if you haven't already. This is just a quick one about the Olympic medals and what they're made of, but there's a whole index of infographics based on different topics. If you click on the index there at the top.
A quick question, was the thing you talked before, you said it was called grade transfer?
Grade transfer, yep, and I can go back to, yep, so grade transfer, and if you click on the link in the chat, you'll be able to access this slide, or I can just actually add the link to this in the chat.
I see, yes, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so we'll go back to, okay. Yeah, that's been a super time saver for me. Anybody that puts grades in Google Classroom, it's really great. Okay. I'm noticing there's a lag between what I'm clicking on, so I'll slow down and make sure that I'm on the right page here. Okay. So yeah, I was just talking about compound interest and all those infographics. And then the last resource that I tend to go to a lot is from the AACT and their list of simulations on a variety of topics for chemistry. So I just wanted to kind of throw it out to the group. Are there any other resources that you guys use and that we can share with each other? Any questions you have on anything that I shared?
I have a quick question. Do you have to pay to be able to use these, like the mold view and the next generation?
So MoleView and the Next Generation Molecular Workbench are free.
Okay.
Yep. So MoleView, and I know they ask for donations, so I'll donate sometimes, and a couple times a year. So if you click on MoleView, I think on the original screen that pops up, they ask for donations. So I'll donate to them because I use it so often, but it is free.
I have a question about Classkick because I used that extensively this year and I couldn't get it to do subscripts. Were you able to figure out how to do subscripts in Classkick?
So I put Classkick on here because I know it's a similar program to Formative, but I didn't use it. So I tended to use Formative. I'm pretty sure Formative had the ability to do, it's almost like you're writing in LaTeX, if you're familiar with that at all. So you can do the subscripts in that.
Right.
But,
unfortunately, our school IT department did not let us use that one.
Oh, that stinks. I hate when they make decisions like that. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
does anybody out there know?
Yeah, exactly. Help.
Yeah.
Does Classkick do subscripts?
No.
It doesn't.
No.
Yeah. That's why I know, like, I stay away from Google Forms because of that whole issue. I need to be able to, make formulas in chemistry, as we all do.
In
So.
Google Forms, you can copy and paste from, there's some document online where you copy the code, and that works in Google Forms.
Hi, Wendy. I just pasted in the chat.
Thank you, Chris.
Copy paste document.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, maybe I'll have to check that out again. It's funny. I think we all navigate to things where it's just it works for you in the moment, and then you just kind of stick with it just for time.
Yeah, I did a lot of copying and pasting for Classkick just to have subscripts. It was time consuming.
Yeah, for sure.
Laura, I use a program called Equatio that my district bought that you can, I think it's mostly for math, but you can write like formulas in there. And then what you can do is then you can just, kind of paste it in there. It lets you kind of copy it right in there.
Yeah.
I think my district.
Equatio. Interesting.
It's called Equatio, and it does, it does formulas. It does basic chemistry. I like it.
That's great.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Is there anybody else that wanted to share or have any questions?
I use FET activities a lot. And they
The
have a
FETs.
good one on, they have a good one on molecular geometry. It talks about
Yes, they do.
It's amazing. I like it.
Yeah, I love that one. There's a
So-
molecular shapes one, and there's a polarity one too that I use.
Yeah.
I think they also did one with balancing chemical equations that I was using with my students to help them out with that too. But I have used the one in molecular geometry. And I also use the molecular workbench anytime I'm talking about like gas laws, because what you can do is you can do all three gas laws, Boyle's, Charles, and Gay-Lussac's, and show them what happens, you change the pressure, change the temperature, and it shows the molecules, speeding up or slowing down, or, it's really, really good.
Yeah, I like the molecular workbench stuff for gases, especially, or any particle level thinking or diagrams you want them to see.
Solids, liquid, gases, that's also good with molecular workbench, just to show those kinds of simulations. Yeah.
Yep, really helps them visualize.
Gizmos are a good resource too.
Yeah, I was
So
going to say
our
that.
district has gizmos. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only
And you
issue with
guys
that is
use
you have to pay for it. Yeah.
Do you use Explore Learning? Is that what you use?
Explore Learning is great. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, anybody not familiar with gizmos, they I believe you'd have to pay for it, but and my district does, and it does have some great interactives and stuff on there. The one thing my science department noticed is that if you use the gizmo worksheets that come with it, they are all Googleable like everything else in the world. So if you're going to use a gizmo, you kind of have to create your own stuff, kind of like the Pogles. All the answer keys to those are out there too. So you can use some stuff from the Pogles or from the Gizmos, but you got to kind of create your own questions. Otherwise, the kids are just going to find the answers online. All right. So before I get into
You were
kind of showing,
muted.
oh, was I muted again?
No, not you, A. Nelson. She was
Oh,
speaking,
yeah.
but she was
I'm
muted.
sorry.
Oh, she was talking and oops.
Yeah, the energy transfer gizmo is really very good when it goes to mechanical to heat. It really, really shows the relationship.
Yeah, and I know with the gizmos, I used a couple. They did there were 3 of them on like specific heat, and I remember I used that for like a virtual lab when we were still virtual this year. It was really great. It let the kids test like a hot pack and test the materials, and it was kind of an engineering practice type thing.
They have a good one on spectroscopy. They actually have 2 on spectroscopy.
They do. That's right. They do. And they can actually see you can fire lasers or something if I remember it correctly, and you can see the electrons doing their jump. Yeah. So that one's good. Any others? I didn't want to continue if people still wanted to share. Okay. So before I show some student work, I just wanted to go over a little bit of my approaches to teaching to give you kind of what my mindset is when I'm sharing this stuff out. So I tend to organize any of my classes into groups. So I do that from the get-go. If I have enough students, I do 6 groups, but I tend to like groups of 4, no more than 4. So 6 is great if I have 24 kids. More than that, sometimes I'll do 7 groups, sometimes I'll do a group of 5. And I usually change those quarterly. I tend not to lecture. We do a ton of guided practice from both me driving that or students driving that. The kids are doing presentations in my classroom all the time, quick little formative ones, and I also do graded summative presentations. We do labs all the time, either formal or informal, either to introduce a topic or reinforce a topic, or sometimes as a summative assessment. I tend to set up station groups quite a bit, and that group collaboration for labs is great. In terms of assessments, I tend to give 5 to 6 summative assessments per quarter, and I always view formatives as meant for feedback, but not for grading. And that's something that, especially I teach honors chemistry to sophomores in my district, and that's something that they're typically not used to. They're used to getting credit just for trying. And that's something that's kind of a culture shift for them when they get to me in chemistry, where their effort no longer is enough. Their effort is, here, I'll give you feedback on what you tried, but then I'm only grading a few things per quarter. So that tends to be kind of a mindset shift for them. And I also provide a daily syllabus that gives them kind of the scope of work over the course of a few weeks. I know, I believe Linda did a talk yesterday on her chemistry scope and sequence, or year at a glance, and talked about, she called it something else. I call it backwards design, but that's also what I implement. And I if you haven't tried that yet, I strongly recommend it. Kind of just has you plan backwards and write the exam first, or write the formative or the summative assessment first, and go backwards from there. And I think being an AP teacher, when I first started AP teaching, I don't know, 12 years ago, really made me focus on planning. And I've kind of now, that's kind of spilled over into my other courses. And now I'm able to share that syllabus with the kids that kind of shows what we're doing for the next few weeks. All right, so the next 3 slides are just some student work samples to kind of show you guys what I did with Cami this year. So its first kind of use is to edit a PDF. So this is a Chem 2 lab on Beer's Law. So I uploaded a document that I had gotten from like the AP chemistry teachers group. Some of you might recognize this lab. But what was great is, because the kids were virtual, I was able to add a video, and you can kind of see it over here. So this is me giving a video that the kids were able to click on and play when they open the document. And I was just going over like some things to notice as they read the question. So it was like directions that I was able to give. And it's really easy to add video or voice comments to Cami. You just click on this little comment button, which I'll show you once we get into an actual document. And you're able to put the video right in. So again, I use the video and the voice commenting for both giving directions, when we were virtual, but I think I still might use it when we're in person, because we know that students don't always listen to us when we're talking to them, even though we repeat ourselves multiple times. So having the video there to click on things like, what did she say when we were with us? I think will be really beneficial for kids. And also kids that are absent, they'll have the, the access to the explanation right there. Some other things that are really cool is it's got just a draw tool. So if you have a stylus, or I just got used to using a mouse, but you're able to kind of grade right on the kids' work. There's also, a text box that you can add, and an equation tool you can add. And similar to Google, you're able to see students' work. So they have the ability to actually see everything the kids did. But just as a quick check, notice there's initials down here, each in a colored bubble. And if you click on the kids' initial and bubble, their work goes away. So you can see how they contributed to a different assignment. And that was something that was really useful, especially when I was watching kids work in real time. I could see who was actually contributing and who wasn't. This is a second work sample. This was a chemistry 2 assignment where I was going over, it was kind of introducing colligative properties. So at this point in time, they were just working through solving problems in terms of molality, molarity, mole fraction, and density. And I decided to, instead of teaching the kids how to do the problems, I introduced it as, here, you know how to work through equations, you have dimensional analysis skills, here's some steps. So you guys are going to work through these guided practice. And at this point in time, the kids were fully virtual, and I made this a shared editable document. And so it's one document with all of the group's work on it. So I had the practice for group 3, and it was a guided practice. And as the kids were working, I could kind of circle their work and write little notes to tell them, oh, you were wrong. So this was my feedback for them. They must have had the wrong unit originally, so I corrected them. And this was really helpful to have one document where I could just see all of them working in real time and give either a voice comment or a text comment, or join the breakout room if they really needed a lot of help. But it was nice to be able to see all the groups working at the same time, just scrolling on one document. And then finally, this was an introduction to intermolecular forces with my honors chemistry class. So again, this is one document where all the groups were working on the same editable document. And I find that mole view comes in handy a lot when after we've taught them how to draw Lewis structures, because we definitely want them drawing them, we want them as an introduction, drawing them out by hand. But once they've kind of gotten used to it, mole view is great for making it a little bit quicker to label intermolecular forces. So this was, again, my honors class. I think at this point in time, we were just doing London dispersion forces, hydrogen bonding, and dipole-dipole, and they were tasked to get the Lewis structure from mole view, finish it by adding lone pairs. And you can see my comment here was they initially were missing lone pairs on one of the nitrogens. And once they had that fixed, I put the little check mark. And they added their partial charges. And so with the honors kids, I had them do this. I kind of checked it over, and then I had them present them quickly towards the end of class. But again, having Cami to give the immediate feedback and mole view to have the structures quick allowed this to be done in a class period easily. So again, I'll pause if there's any questions. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I just wanted to kind of, because you said this in the last slide, but I'm trying to, like, in my mind, think about this, because I've used Cami for individual student work, but never as a group work. So you create one document and then you share it with all of the students, and then they individually work. So do you have like a place for each group to do their work in the one document, or is it like, how does that work? Because Classkick, it's very different. So I'm just trying to figure this out.
I totally understand. It took me a while to kind of manage it, but eventually what I kind of fell into was using Google Slides, where each page of a Google slide became the group's place to work. So I would, so in like the first, and you'll see this when I go to open the lessons in a minute, but actually I might just go do that because I can show you.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay, so this is a Google slide, and you can see each slide because you have the little divisions there.
Mhm.
And then Cami opens it, and it just has a full document that you can scroll through. So when I tend to make an assignment for groups, I color code. So group 1 always gets kind of a pink, and group 2 always gets kind of an orange. And then if you're a Google Classroom school, you can just, when you share the document, you just give editing privileges to everybody in that one document, and then they all work, but they have a place to work.
And I see that each group gets like a slightly different question. So they can't just like look at group 1's work and say, okay, I'm just going to copy
Exactly.
group 1. Okay.
Yep.
Makes
So I
sense.
tend to do quick little, and I mean, these aren't hard questions. These are kind of simple questions, depending on the class, obviously, but this is for an honors class. And they're meant to just be like, here, take 10 minutes and answer this question, and then we're going to share out. So things like that.
And do they find it difficult to draw on a Cami, like, because they don't have a stylus or an iPad?
I tried to stay away from having them draw anything. So like, for example, this assignment, they were using PhET to build the atom, and they would just copy and paste the image in.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I tried to stay away from anything where they were drawing, because that definitely gets annoying really quickly. And most of the students didn't have access to a stylus, and so most of them don't even have a mouse. They were just trying to use the Chromebook mouse pad, that's
Even
a
harder.
disaster. So,
Right.
yeah. So I tried really hard to be thoughtful of that, and try to do things that were, more accessible.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Were there any other questions? Just going back to where we were.
I was just going to comment when kids want to, when it's important for them to draw. So many of the kids have phones. And so a lot of my students found that if they wrote it on a piece of paper, they could then take a picture and then send it to me. And that worked too, because there was always something technical that would go on in a given day. And I would say there's always a way. You got your phone, take a picture. If I'm going too fast, take that phone out and take a picture of the slide. Maybe you were interrupted by your parents or whatever. And some kids couldn't like print something. So I was like, just do the answer. You don't have to copy it out, but do it on a piece of paper, take a picture, send it. And that just kind of, because I teach in a inner city school. So a lot of the kids don't have everything. So I found that that gave them power.
For sure.
Cam Scanner is a good resource for that. My students use that a lot, and you can copy and paste anything into a slide or a doc.
Yep.
And
I know that
Cam Scanner. I'll put it in the thing. I had one of my students teach me how to use it, especially the second year early enrollment, dual class chemistry. And most of their work, they actually do it on the paper, and then they just scan it. You can scan multiple pages into one doc. And then they attached it to Google. If I gave them like a PDF that had work on it. But it was really, really time saving. And it was much better than the screenshot. You really, really could see it better. Or just a picture from the phone.
And I will say too, yeah, I totally agree with all of that. Having the kids, most of them do have iPhones, and the scanner or just taking a photo. And then with Cami, this little add media button on the left-hand side allows them to upload any pictures. So, and the quality always came out really nice. So that was also, and kids are all different. So I don't care how they did the work. If they wanted to, write it out and take a picture of it, that's fine. If they wanted to do it in here, that was fine. But there was definitely that option of adding the media as a picture of any work that they had done by hand.
Make sure. I had students like to use graph paper. Not good. It's got to be either plain white paper or lined paper. And
yeah, sometimes the backgrounds get a little messy. I also tell them to stay away from pencil, because that as soon as you scan in pencil, that becomes a little tricky as well.
Yeah. But they were
I know
able to scan the pencil with the cam scanner as long as they pressed hard enough.
Oh, gotcha.
So it, you
I
know,
just- Sorry.
Are you gonna put that in the chat box?
The cam scanner link, and I can't tell who I was talking to either, but that would be great for the cam scanner link.
Do you know if Cami has an app for a phone?
Oh, did I ever use Cami on my phone? I don't know that.
Okay. Not necessarily through the browser, but maybe, I didn't know if they had
Like
their
an
own
actual
app.
app.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know if it does.
I'll take a quick look on my phone and see if I can find something.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. I've never tried that.
I'll report
But,
back.
that's a great question. Yeah, now I'm curious to see. All right, any other questions?
Is this Cami also free or you have to pay for it?
So Cami has a free version. In the free version, you don't get access to a bunch of the things on the menu, but it still does let you open a PDF and edit a PDF, but you wouldn't have access to the commenting or the equation tool. I don't think the add media is on the free one. I believe the payment, and I have a slide for this, I think it's $99 a year as an individual teacher if you want to pay for it. I know my district ended up buying it, so we were very lucky that we had access to it without paying for it. I know they also have a free trial where you get access to all the, the full suite of things, of abilities, and I think that's like a 90-day trial. If you do sign up as a teacher, you get a 90-day trial.
And if you buy it as a teacher, are you able to also, does it include your students using it?
It does. So it gives you a either a teacher key that you can share out with students, or I think there's a different way you can do it as well, where you can share it out with students. Mm-hmm. The one thing I will say is if your district ends up buying it, I think this is on one of the, yeah, this is the next slide. So it integrates seamlessly with Google Classroom. So if you, I don't know if you're a Google Classroom school, but if you upload something on Google Classroom, if you click the create button and you have Cami, you can actually upload anything as a Cami assignment. If you don't have that integration like through your district, you can still upload Cami documents. You would just have to do it from the actual Cami site, which I'll show you in a moment. And then through Google also, like you can do it as a view only document. I tended to use the view only if kids were doing labs and working in groups, and then they made their own copies that they would share with each other. And Cami makes it really easy. It's as easy as Google sharing a document and giving editing privileges. So that was really nice. I did the students may edit tool a lot, as I showed you guys, to have them do group work that I could see on one document. And then I did the, assign to each student as well, if it was some sort of like homework or individual practice. If you aren't using Cami with Google, it is easy to just open a document in Cami as long as you have Cami installed on your computer. So from a Google Drive or any file, I just went into Drive, I right-clicked it, and you can just open with Annotate with Cami. And then it'll open it up as a PDF. And then it also has a little button where you can very easily share, like I said, just like a Google share. And you can have restricted access. You can give anybody the link. You can make them a viewer or an editor. So they made that really easy.
Can I interrupt for just a second? Because
sure.
This whole time, I've just been thinking that Cami is supposed to be like for PDFs. So I've always thought that I could only use Cami if I had a PDF. But now that I'm looking at this, you've got like some slides, you're talking about a Google Doc. And so I have to have like a mind shift here. And it sounds as though you're taking a Google Doc and you're converting it into a PDF, and then they can work on it.
Yes. Yep.
So what's the benefit of that? Why not have them just work on the Google Doc?
So a couple of things, and that's I know like when COVID first hit and we went virtual, not this past year but the year before, I was doing that, and I'd have to make like boxes for like put your answer here type thing, and but then kids could go in and like they'd delete the work or they like wouldn't, and I just found it wasn't as seamless as having the PDF there, let's say. Because in the PDF, like they can't change what it is. And I know a lot of people did like, I saw a lot of people doing like Google Slides and they'd set the background to something. And this was just an easier way to do that. And then I also like that it has things like the video commenting and the, you know, the voice commenting and the ability to do equations right in it. So I hear what you're saying. We're like, why not just stick to a Google Doc? I just found this a lot better in terms of having what I wanted set, and then they just added their work to it and they couldn't manipulate what I had put there.
So
I also found it. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. So
I also,
sorry,
Go ahead.
Angela.
Go ahead.
I used it so that my students could see it at remote, and they could see it at the same time when I was on the board. So I used it in a hybrid situation, and I could write right on it because we have a smart board. So if I didn't, otherwise I'd have to stay at the computer and type onto the Google Doc. So this way I open it up and my students could see it both either on the computer or see it in live. And I could do problems on it and just take the PDF or even take the Google Doc half the time and not convert it to a PDF, but convert it to Cami, which maybe did put it in a PDF, but then just like use it like right there without having to use the computer. So for me, that was really like I was trying to figure out, excuse me, how to teach both at the same time. So I would open up with my Google slideshow and I would basically be doing a Google slideshow with Pear Deck. And then if the kids were having problems doing the problem, I would just copy and paste the problem on a Google Doc, open up with Cami and solve it right there for them. So that's kind of the way that I incorporated into it. I use this all the time. I have the free version. So a lot of the things that you're talking about now, like inserting that kind of stuff in the voices, I couldn't do, but just the ability to be able to translate it both live and in a hybrid situation.
Having kids at home too. Yep.
Yeah.
And I agree. And so once I kind of realized, if you have kids in front of you and you have kids at home, and we have Promethean boards in the classroom. So once we returned home and we had that split class, I'm like, how do you do this? How do you have kids follow in class, follow at home? And so I just converted everything to Cami. And then, like you said, if kids were having issues and I need to do out a problem, I could write right on the Cami instead of having to be stuck at my computer with a Google Doc or whatever.
And I found giving feedback to kids was a lot easier in Cami than Google Docs, because in Google Docs, you got to highlight what you want to, and then hit the comment and type it all in. It was just so much easier to do it in Cami.
I totally agree. And I have to tell you, I got really used to doing that voice commenting. Like I would just click, like if they were doing a lab conclusion or something that was like long. Yeah, Google commenting with that becomes such a pain. You highlight like a word or something, and then the comment box comes up, and then, well, I want to say this about that sentence, but then this about this sentence. So being able to click on the paragraph and then give them my voice feedback of like, okay, you were right here, and then you kind of went wrong on this one, was really, really helpful and much quicker, to be honest. So. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'm going to try to kind of fly through these next couple of slides because I'm over on time. All right, so to actually have access to the documents that I'm going to share, you will need to install Cami. So if you haven't done that yet, you need to create an account. You can log in with Google. And then I think it comes up as like you can do a new blank page and just hit add. So if you haven't already done anything with Cami and you want to start now, you can go ahead and do that now. And if you want to just keep paying attention here, that's fine too. Let's see. So yeah, I had already clicked on this one before, but I just wanted to show again, just some like sample lessons that I have. So this is something that I use to introduce atoms, ions, and isotopes. I provide them with all the definitions that they would need and the equations. This is very introductory, something I would do right at the start of the year for an honors chemistry class. So they have the link to the PhET build an atom. Each group would be tasked to actually go build the particle, copy and paste it into their group section, figure out how many protons, neutrons, electrons, the mass, and the atomic number. And then after that, depending on the level of the class, I might have them present out their answers first so we can discuss any misconceptions. And then they would quickly do a follow-up with like a who am I and figure out what the image is. So this would be a 1 day of a lesson for an honors chem class. If it was a college prep type class, I might add a few more questions that are a little bit more scaffolded. All right. The second one is with moles and mole conversion. So I just wanted to quickly show how Cami lets you do equations if you haven't seen that yet. This is a graded presentation. So I have the learning scale here, which is similar to a rubric, but it kind of makes it more holistic, where the kids know to get like up a level, they have to show specific skills. So it's a 1-row rubric, and I tend to use this quite a bit. This assignment has embedded in it one of those infographics on a smelly flower. So this flower like smells like a rotting body, I guess. So for each lesson, I try to find something that's interesting that will grab their attention. And this is a good one for that, where in class, we would probably read through this together, and then each group would be given one of the compounds that contributes to the smelliness of this flower. And I'd introduce the idea that, the lines represent carbons. They would have to use the name to actually build this in mole view, and then copy and paste the structure into the Cami, and then find the molar mass from there. So this is just an example of how I use those infographics in with a Cami document to get the kids a little bit more interested. And then the directions are here. So what the kids would do is they'd each have, a different compound. This first group would have dimethyl trisulfide. So they'd screenshot the structure for mole view. They'd have to find the molar mass, and then they could do the moles and molecules. So if you hit the equation tool, it'll open up a little box once you click on the document. You can change the font size. And then from here, you can just go ahead and type in your equation. The font is always a little funky because it's always italicized. And then there's a few different ways to do it. You can do the time sign, and then you can open up parentheses. So I know there's different ways to teach dimensional analysis. Like, there's the lines and the, what do they call those with like football? I'm blanking. But you can do the lines like that, or you can do the, goalpost, thank you. The goalpost way of teaching dimensional analysis, or the parentheses way, or without the parentheses. But I found in Cami, the parentheses way tends to be the best. So you could do 1 mole, and then you actually hit the division sign, and that gives you your fraction. And then you'd put in, I have no idea what the molar mass of that is. I'm just going to make something up. And then you have to click over, similar to doing an equation like a Google Doc. So the kids that had already done equations in Google Docs, they were able to do this pretty seamlessly. Some kids hated this and didn't like it at all and just wrote stuff out. But some kids really liked this. So you can do like Avogadro's number. You just use the caret key above the 6 to get to your exponents. And then if you wanted to do a subscript, you just press the dash line, and then you can subscript. And you can even like subscript to subscript. So it takes a little bit of getting used to, but there's certainly a way to do dimensional analysis and show work in Cami in the paid version. Are there any questions about that, or anything else I could show you guys with the equation tool? All right, so the last thing I wanted to show you that I had used in class was for a Chemistry 2 class. This was something I used for both AP, and I teach a dual enrollment class as well, where they earn the college credit. So this is a virtual lab with Equilibrium, where again, they were able to actually work in groups for this. So I would share this through Google as a view only document. And then the kids were able to open it. And then with this little button right here, they're able to share it. So they kind of got used to doing this pretty quickly, where they would share, one person would share it, be the owner of the document, and then they would make all the people that they shared it with in their group the editors. So that was something that was pretty easy to do. And then the simulation that I found was through Cengage Learning. This is a good one for Equilibrium. If you teach a Chem 2 class and you've never seen this, it's actually pretty good, where there's actually like 4 different equilibriums where they can actually look at like Q versus K and things like that. And then in the CAMI, what I was asking, I forgot what the first question was. Oh, they had to show that the equilibrium constant is in fact a constant at constant temperature. So they had to collect enough data using the simulation, using at least 2 reactions. They had to run multiple trials and then write a CER. So I left them space to screenshot their evidence and then write in their CER. And it's easy enough just to add a text box, and they can write, K is a constant at constant temperature or whatever. So the text box option is pretty easy to use. Once you've written something, you can delete it very easily. You can change the color. So kids did all sorts of things with fonts and colors, and like they would normally do in a document. But again, I like the CAMI. No,
I was just going to say, sorry to say, this is a stupid question, but
no stupid questions,
no question
right?
is stupid. Exactly. So, what is a CER?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I haven't taught AP in a couple of years, so maybe some of the language has changed.
Sorry. Yep.
What is CER?
So CER just stands for claim, evidence, and reasoning. So CER is the way my science department does any sort of conclusion writing. So yeah, C stands for claim, where they just provide an answer. Evidence is usually where they explain the data. So they cite specific evidence from data if they're doing a lab. And then their reasoning is tying in appropriate like chemical theories to explain how the evidence supports their claim. So CER is something that's used not just in AP. We use it in all of our science classes, like 9 through 12. So.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
What you're presenting, is this on the document you sent us?
It is. So the original link sends you to this Google sheet. So the slideshow is here, and then the 3 assignments are down here. Yep.
Okay, I was on the slideshow.
Yeah. I don't think I linked it. I forget how I linked it.
So how do I get the original link? I think I was late coming in.
Oh, I can definitely share it again. No problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay. So where we're at 10:28. All right. So I'm a little bit over. I think that was basically what I wanted to show you guys. And then I wanted to give some time if you did want to create a lesson, just kind of brainstorm. And I just kind of wanted to start off with just some kind of questions to think about before you create one if you've never created a CAMI lesson. So like collaboration, are you going to have the students work in groups? I tend to do a lot of group work when they're both learning and reinforcing skills. Will it be graded? If so, you're going to do it as a formative or a summative, and then which apps will best support that learning? So which format are you going to use? And then I figured I'd just kind of be quiet and give you guys about, let's see, I need until 10:50, so about 20 minutes to work. Not as much time as I would have liked, but.
So can this actually be used as like to help you manage PDFs that aren't things that you make? So if I get like some PDF document from my lawyer or whatever, can I use CAMI to move things around and that type of thing?
Yeah, I actually, just on a personal note, my parents actually just sold their house, and because everything's virtual, the lawyer like sent the mortgage papers over, or not the mortgage papers, the whatever, the seller disclosure forms or whatever. And yeah, I actually opened it on Cami for them and had them like sign their name, and yep, it worked just fine. So
I do it with all the medical forms, dental forms.
Yep, I find once you have it installed and you've kind of played around with it for a week or so, it becomes a very useful tool.
So can we actually play around with one of these documents that you made, and you can show us how you graded or something?
Yeah, go right ahead. These should be editable. I'm pretty sure I have them as, you guys can add stuff to it. Yeah, I'm happy to go over whatever.
So do you have multiple copies for each class, or does it, like when you save it, does it save it as a period 1, period 2, or?
Right, so that was one of my wrap up things, but I can go to that now since you asked. Yes, you definitely have to make sure that if you're doing an editable document that you have to make copies. So I tend to have 3 honors chemistry classes. So for every assignment, I make 3 copies. And I learned very quickly my Google Drive was becoming crazy. So what I decided to do from, I don't know, I think in January, I made just a 2021 folder to house work for the year. And then it was easy, when school ended in June, I could just delete that folder. Or like move it to a different place. So when I know I'm going to be giving an editable to everybody assignment, I know I have to make my copies. I name them with the period and then the year, and then I put the name of the assignment. I also started numbering my assignments, and at first I was doing it per unit, and that helped me stay organized, especially when we were, virtual. But I definitely recommend housing them in like one folder. And that way they're not, you keep your own copy, like the one copy, you keep that clean, and then you have your copies where the kids are going to edit, and you'll have those.
Okay, so I have a question for you, I guess.
Sure.
So when you're saying that you're making copies of this, are you putting it in Google Classroom and telling Google Classroom to make copies for the kids, or are you making multiple copies of it within Cami? I'm not quite understanding how you're doing that.
So I think I'll be able to show you if I just go into my drive. Here, let's see.
So you're going into your Google Drive and you're making a copy.
I'm going into my personal drive. Yeah, so I'll show you guys how I do this. Let's see, I want chemistry honors. Sorry, there's such a lag. Just waiting for it to load here. Got stuck. So I'm in my drive and it's showing the, oh, there it goes, of course, as soon as I click off. Okay, so here's my unit 1 for honors chemistry. So these are all the clean documents that I have like ready to go for this upcoming year, let's say. So if I want to take something that I know they're going to edit as a group. Let's see. So for example, assignment 2A, group practice atoms, ions, and isotopes. I think that was one of the ones I just shared. So yeah, I would go ahead and right in Google Drive, I would make the 3 copies, and I would name them, period 3, 2021. and then I would move them to a separate folder. So there's definitely some work on that front end to make these copies. But I think it's worth it because of the collaboration. Because also at the end, kids get a document with all of the group's work. And because we go over everything and they usually present them, you know, all those misconceptions come out, and then they end up with a document that has like an answer. It's basically like an answer key that they all have access to, which is different than having like one worksheet assigned to one kid where maybe they're checking an answer key that you give them. So it's a little bit different because they have it all in one spot and they've all kind of worked on making that answer key themselves. So I think I answered your question. And then what I would do is once, like, let's say this is the copy for like my period 3 class, I would then go into Classroom and upload that as a Kami assignment and make it editable for my period 3 class. And then I do the same thing for my period 4 class and the same thing for my period 5. I would just make additional copies. Does that make sense?
I'm trying to, I'm sorry. So I'm trying to think in Google Classroom, I know you can, I see what you did there, but when you go to put it in Classroom, it's either, is it view only? I'm trying to remember what are the choices that they give you when you're creating an assignment, or is it like
let's
view
take a look.
only?
Hold on.
Make a copy. I just don't remember.
No, I have an AP, I have Google Classroom set up for my AP class for next year already. So let's see. I'm just waiting for it to catch up to me here. Okay, so, all right, so we're in classwork. And we would go to create. So like I said, it comes up as a Kami assignment because my district has purchased Kami for the district. So if your district does do that, it does come up as an option. But if you were to just post an assignment, I know you can, let's see. You can add a Kami document because I know I was doing that before my district did that. Okay, so the students can view the file, the students can edit, or you can make a copy for each student are the 3 Google choices.
So you would choose students can edit, and all of them would be able to edit that
one
copy
document
of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And I would have renamed it.
Right.
Exactly. So you want to keep your originals clean. So like I said, on the front end, there's definitely some extra work involved in terms of making those copies. But I still think that the result is beneficial because the kids get that, you know, all the answers on that one document.
Okay, so one more question that I have for you, and I ran into this a couple of times where I would give an assignment to the kids, and then I would go in, and as we're going over it, I would use my stylus and I would write on the answers, and then when I go back, you know, to do it for another class, all the answers were there. I don't know how I did that. Do you? Do you?
Was that in a Kami document?
Yes, like I would open, like I would assign the kids, and then I would open it in Kami, and then I would write the answers on it, and then maybe for the next class I wanted to do the same thing, and then I saw all of my answers from the previous class.
So it, because it saved, it saved what you had written on there. So the way around that, I think, is to create a copy of the document. So then you write on one, and then you need your clean version to do again. I believe that's the issue.
Okay.
So when you're saying make a copy, you're opening the documents in your drive, clicking go to the left, make a copy.
Yep.
Okay.
So all of those copies are housed in my drive. And then I, like I said, just for organizational purposes, I would take all those copies and move them to, so I would have like a chemistry honors 2021, 2022 folder where all of those editable things go. And in my, like this is my chapters 1 through 3 honors, folder, this was where all the clean copies would go.
You could even add another folder if you're going to organize your curricula by concepts. That way, in that one folder you're talking about, which I think it's a great thing, but I'm a biggie for folders within folders within folders, so it just makes life easier.
Yeah. So I think it all depends on our personal preference, right? But so whatever works. Yeah.
To clean up your drive, because it's just absolutely nuts.
Isn't it crazy how much? Yeah, it was overwhelming. So I was like, whoa, how much stuff have I actually created this year?
So when you make your document, okay, with the guided practice, you said you color code each group.
I do. Yeah.
Okay. And then, do you have a master of the students on your group listings? You must, right?
Do I have a what?
A written copy or a typed in copy of what kids are in what group and what class.
Oh, okay. So the way I do that, I tend to be like a type A personality, let's say, or if you do like colors, I'm like a very green person. so when the kids come in, I have my seating chart, and then I tend to put the kids in, in their groups in the seating chart, and then I actually like highlight their names with the color that they're in. So like group 1 is red, and then their lab is red. And then I bought at the dollar store like little buckets for their lab stuff. That's all red. Like it's so it's very color themed in my room in terms of what group they're in.
So is your seating chart electronic, or are you doing?
I actually print that out. We actually have to because of subs and stuff. So yep, I just print it out, and then after a couple of weeks, you learn the kids' names. You kind of learn. I just tend to remember the color that they're in, but yep.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
There's a couple of us working on your NEAC #2 group practice moles and mole conversions. And it's interesting, we're running into some interesting things. So I went in to try to fix the molar mass in the equation that you made, and I can't.
Oh,
I can't.
So you can't. That's something I should have said. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Once somebody is typing, you can't then type over them. So, like I could go in as a teacher and say like, that's wrong, but if you're somebody in that group, they would then have to write a new equation. They can't go in and change somebody else's text, which that got interesting sometimes with groups, because they'd be like, wait, my group member messed up and now I can't go in and change it. And you can't, you have to actually type in another one.
Okay.
So that's true for both the text boxes and the equation tool. You can't go in and edit somebody else's equation box or text box. In terms of cutting and pasting, make sure you hit the select tool. So if you're on a text box or an equation box or drawing, it won't let you copy and paste with Control-C, Control-V. But if you hit select, it will. So if you hit this little arrow and you're trying to copy and paste something, that should work.
How do you copy it from Mole View?
So you would go into Mole View, and then depending on your computer, so I have a Chromebook and I just hit Control Shift and then the little box above the 6. That highlights my screen. So I don't know if you have a Chromebook. I'm not sure how to do it on anything else. I don't know if there's any other tech savvy people in here, but on a Chromebook, I know you do that.
I have a Snippet Tool that I used.
There's a Snippet Tool, but I know on my computer, you highlight the screen, you highlight what you want, you copy it to the clipboard, and then you paste from there. And then I can move around and
then I see down, I wrote, you can kind of see sort of below where you just pasted. I wrote, not sure how it works. Nothing else seems to. I couldn't put any spaces or anything. And I guess I was in the equation editor, even though I was typing words, that's why I couldn't get any spaces.
So the equation will only do the math. You can't put spaces between your words. So, it's not perfect. It does get a little wonky when it comes to that. And like, yeah, as units, you can't put like moles of dimethyl trisulfide or whatever. So I just told the kids, don't worry about grammar, like don't worry about spacing, just, write it out as the unit. But yeah, you can't do in the equation toolbar, if you're doing an equation, you can't put spaces and you can't hit like enter. It'll just go right across the screen. When I see somebody typing, so if you want like a denominator, you hit the / button and then I'll give you the denominator.
One of the things that I found, I was using Cami a lot. I made like, I have a folder. I use Schoology, and at the beginning of every chem class, I have things you need in chemistry, right? And I have my reference tables and whatnot. But I also would have problem solving for Cami, like if something's not working for you. So the kids, because yes, you say it, but they don't listen. So I made I was very proud of it. I made like it was like a lab for covalent bonding, and I forget which website that I used, but it was similar to the one that I see where the model view wasn't the same one, but the kids, they had the formula, then they had to find a picture, cut and paste it, then they had to draw the structural formula. So they had to use all the different tools in Cami, the select button, the text box, the whatever. So if something's not working for you in Cami, why isn't it cutting and pasting? Because you're not using the select button. And so like I have this like document that I made that, if I'm not there and you're trying to do this at home, okay, go and go check that. Maybe I'm not on the right thing. And so then they started going, oh, this is where I need to go to fix this. And little things like that. Are you in text box? Are you in equations? Are you, it's stuff that we do every day, but then they're home on the weekend and they're trying to do their lab and they can't cut and paste their molecules. So it's.
Can you share that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're willing to, if you can throw that in the chat, that would be amazing.
I don't have access to it at the moment.
Oh, okay.
They kind of like cut down my whole Schoology site. They're like revamping it or something. So I don't know if it'll even be there if I have to redo it.
Hopefully it is for you. Oh man.
I try to archive everything before we left. They said that everything was kind of, but I don't know. So I hope it's there when I go back.
I hope it is. What I will say too with that is, like I said, the like inserting a comment. So that's this button right here. And again, this is only in the paid version. So you can add text comments, but I tended to add voice and video. And it's as simple as literally just clicking the button. And let's say I wanted to like voice comment on this. You would just, whoops, I actually have to do, there we go. So it would start to record my voice here. And then a little button comes up and the kids can, know that when they play this, I'm talking about that, and it becomes all color coded. So you can do that as directions too, as like little, hey, if you're copying and pasting something, make sure you hit select, and just those little, reminders. And then video is just as easy. So I don't know if anybody ever used Flipgrid, but I used to use Flipgrid a lot. And now I tend to just use this video commenting, because you literally just click and I can add video or the kids can add video, and it gives you up to 20 minutes. It sticks it right in there. If you mess up, it's easy to trash it and start over. So it's just a really nice way. Sometimes I'll have kids, I think this is actually, and I think I'm almost close to time. Yeah. So I was going to go over this anyway in like the wrap up. Sometimes I'll have kids with labs. Each group will get like one question to answer during the lab. Well, they'll have to make a video like I just did and put it in a shared Cami document. And then, we can play the videos. Either the kids would watch the videos as like homework and kind of comment on them, or maybe we'll play all the videos in class and comment on them for like a post-lab discussion. But I tend to have the kids either doing live presentations or video commenting all the time to get them to, again, speak the language of chemistry. I think it's, so important because we are technically teaching this, other language, right? So having them talk the language, the more the better, in my opinion.
Okay, so I have a question for you. So when you do the video, can you share, is it just looking at you, or can it be looking at your screen as well? So for example, if a kid is doing a problem and they did it right all the way down to a certain point and they messed up and you kind of want to show them where they went wrong, can you do that video wise, or,
you can. So this little screen capture, am I hovering over it right now? Yeah, this little screen capture button will actually capture the screen and then you can comment on the screen. I think that's what you were referring to.
Can you do one for us?
I actually have never tried the screen capture, but I will try. So here we go. Let's see what happens.
Make a little video.
So screen captures. Let's see. Let's capture that. Oh, and then you get to pick what you want to capture. Okay. Oh, you guys can't see that yet. So this popped up. So you can capture your entire screen. You can capture one window or a Chrome tab, similar to Zoom or Google Classroom, I guess. So let's do that. And then I can comment on the fact that we're learning about Cami. So it looks like it does the same thing. It captures the actual screen. I wonder what happens when I hit done. Oh, look at that. So it actually put, okay, it actually put the, instead of just me on the video, it had the screen itself. That's interesting.
We're only seeing a black screen.
I know, it's lagging. What's going on? What happened to my share? Huh. Oh, maybe it didn't like it because it captured the screen in Cami. So it kicked me off of the Zoom. Hold on, I'm getting back in there.
What it did was it captured, and you could hear your voice as well as you were talking about it. So yes, it's making a video of that. Very neat.
Gotcha. Yeah, so that's cool too. So again, one thing I hadn't used yet, but definitely a cool tool.
Can you show, like, if you want to make a verbal comment on one of the things that I put in here, how would you do that?
So like, I don't know what you did, but like this mole view image, let's say, right?
Okay.
So if a kid put this down as like the Lewis structure for, now obviously they're just doing mole, so I wouldn't expect them to know anything about lone pairs at this point. But if, let's imagine we were on Lewis structures and they copied and pasted this structure as the Lewis structure for, what is it, dimethyl trisulfide, I would click here and say, careful kiddos, you might want to look at your Lewis structure again. Remember, every atom needs an octet and you might have missed some lone pairs. So look at that again, or something like that.
And then how would they know that you had made a comment to go back and look at it?
So these little buttons would pop up. So they would know. I would always tell them, look for the buttons. And it also, when they open the document, they see the, on the side if there's videos or voices or anything like that. And you can color code them too. So, if I wanted to put them in like red or whatever, Did anybody else have any questions?
I'm seeing colored buttons at the bottom on the
So
lower.
these right here, where it says like MB, MB, AH. So these are all us. So anybody that's in the document, we show up as somebody that's collaborating on the document. And if I click on one of these little circles, so this is Cynthia, right? So if I click off that, it'll actually take her work off. Structure again, remember every atom needs an octet. I'm getting some feedback, I'm not sure why.
Am I on it? I don't see my initials at all.
Sometimes, hold on. What's going on there?
Oh.
Whoops.
Sorry, I think that was me. I was playing one of your
Oh, no
feet.
problem.
I was playing one of your thing and I didn't realize that my mic was
No
showing.
problem. Oh, I think I just stopped sharing again. I don't know why that happened. Let's try that again. Okay. All right, so yep, the little buttons down here, somebody was asking. So we've got, these are all the people that have clicked on this document. So we have Wendy.
Oh, I didn't click on it.
Yeah, so all these people have contributed. And then this was great for grading. So just like a, in a Google Doc, you can see what kids have done in terms of history. And there's also what draft back, is that what it's called, where you can see, if kids have, if all of a sudden they're doing a lab and all of a sudden like a whole bunch of text shows up and, they pasted it from somebody or copied and pasted it from somewhere. So this is similar in that you can click off, like if I want to know what one student did, I click off everybody else and it would just show that. So I use that a lot for when they were doing like group assignments to make sure that everybody was in fact contributing equally and I could see what each kid was doing. All right, I know I'm
Now
coming up
that's
on
interesting
time
because I
here.
didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, so that was a really helpful tool, especially when, the kids were, at home and they were supposed to be working on something and I could message kids directly, like, how come you haven't contributed yet? Like, are you there? Hello. And in our district, we couldn't make them put their screens on. So it was a way to figure out if they were working or not. They didn't always answer, but at least it was something we could do. All right, coming up on the time here, I have a quick little survey that I hope you guys will fill out for me. I just made like a quick thing on SurveyMonkey. I can put the link in the chat, or if you have the document open already, you can just go there. But I'm really hoping today was helpful. I've never done one of these presentations before, so I appreciate Kathy Syak actually invited me to do this and encouraged me, so I appreciate her encouraging me, and I hope it was really helpful. And if you don't mind, just filling that survey out for me, and I'd appreciate any feedback. I'll also take any other questions you guys might have. Oh, thank you so much, Donna. I appreciate it. Thanks, Kevin.